convention a big success. My understanding is that this is a bigger crowd than it was certainly last year and also 2 years ago. So it's great to see the party growing and the interest in participating in the state convention. It's great to see that increasing. When I agreed to do this speech, I was not yet a candidate, so this will kind of have two halves to it, I suppose. One, kind of just talking a little bit about my campaign in 2013, some of the things we learned, talking about some of the things we do well in the Libertarian Party and some of the things that we can improve upon. And second, I'll talk a little bit about how I would love to have your support and active participation in the campaign this year. The most important thing the most important aspect to the campaign last year, in my opinion, was just the fact that we were willing to work hard, knowing that we wouldn't get a lot of media attention, knowing that it would be an uphill battle, but that we were all still willing to put up a fight. And the reason is because the Libertarian Party, for its entire existence, has been incredibly principled and has been focused on freedom. And freedom permeates every position and the platform, and everybody in the Libertarian Party is a member of the Libertarian Party because they believe strongly in freedom. You don't join a third party unless you are committed to the core. And that's something, that's a beautiful thing. And we should always keep that in mind, that anywhere you go and you see another Libertarian Party member, they share a fire and a passion in their heart for being able to live their lives as they want to, and respecting other people's right to do the same. That's something that's a real treasure, and that's something that we have to foster in each other and in ourselves, and try and spread the magic. That's really what I tried to do last year. There's a lot of criticisms of my campaign out there, and I agree with a lot of the criticisms. I could have done a better job in a lot of ways, and hopefully we will do a better job this year. One of the things that I would love to do is be better at recruiting candidates and supporting them in the campaign. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. But last year's campaign, I think we had 6 House of Delegate candidates, and they were great. They did a great job. We really need to make sure that we're running people, certainly in races that are uncontested by the major parties, but also not be afraid to put up candidates in every single House and state Senate district and local jurisdictions, and doing so, it's as much about mind share as it is about anything else. Spreading the gospel of freedom requires people to constantly hear people and see people who are willing to stand up and argue for these things, and making sure that you're presentable, that you're presenting good arguments, rational, respecting other people's views, accepting that people can disagree with you. That gets you that opens a lot of doors. And when we look at the federal and state governments and local governments encroaching on our rights and growing government, people start looking for other solutions. And that's what's going on right now, especially at the federal level. So what I tried to do was present the case to the Libertarian Party, that knowing that not everybody's libertarian, that there are people who are very unlibertarian, but arguing in many cases on their terms for why libertarianism is the proper approach to government. And I think that a lot of non-libertarians supported me precisely because there's a total vacuum of good policy discussion from our politicians. And that's an incredible fact, given that the government has so much control over our lives. The fact that we can't get honest, substantive discussion of policies that affect our lives, it's a tragedy. I mean, it's an injustice. And the fact that our system produces 2 parties that are so, what's the proper word, so dismissive of the concerns of citizens, of our rights, is a real problem, and is worth pushing back as hard as we can. Let me just tell you a story that just kind of happened in the last couple of weeks that is kind of shows just how unjust our government system can be. My brother-in-law just got sentenced to 24 years in prison for his third marijuana offense. So part of the reason I haven't gotten as far as I have in staffing the campaign and working to get it started is because we've been trying to get a lawyer up to speed to file a motion for new trial and appeal and all that. But there are so many layers of injustice in this. And I talked about the war on drugs last year and argued for legalization of marijuana. And I tried really hard to turn a lot of questions that were, in my opinion, not very relevant or not very important. And I tried to turn them into questions about things like the drug war. But this time, and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to do the same thing this year, but this time it's much more personal. And I think that it's really important to make sure that every voter in the state of Virginia knows the hypocrisy involved, the irrationality, the total lack of respect for science, the total lack of respect for people's dignity, the total lack of justice in the criminal justice system, and the fact that there are huge racial disparities. And not only that, they don't need to know just those facts, but they also have to know where Mark Warner, where President Obama, where the Republican nominee stands on ending the drug war and legalizing marijuana. And, you know, looking back at people who have been railroaded into the criminal justice system because of those laws. So that's my commitment to you, and it's not just this issue, but this issue has become a whole lot more personal. And you better believe that we're going to challenge all of the incumbents, all of the challengers in every House race, the Senate race, and we're going to put this on the desk, or put this in the public conscience that, you know, Barack Obama, our president, smoked like a chimney when he was younger. My brother-in-law, when he gets out of prison, will be older than the president is now. There's an enormous loss of human potential, and that's just one out of thousands upon thousands of people. I wanted to, my favorite of the founding fathers is James Madison, and I wanted to read, I kind of wanted to read an extended portion of something he wrote before the Constitutional Convention, when he was talking about the problems that we face under the Articles of Confederation. But I'm just going to read one sentence, which, or even half of a sentence, because I think it just really encapsulates everything that's wrong with government today. And the sentence comes right after he talked about how we have way too many laws and that they change too often. He says, if the multiplicity and mutability of laws proves a want of wisdom, their injustice betrays a defect still more alarming. More alarming not merely because it is a greater evil in itself, but because it brings more into question the fundamental principle of Republican government, that the majority who rule in such governments are the safest guardians both of public good and of private rights. So if you just kind of think about that and unpack it, first of all, that just the first two things, multiplicity and mutability of laws. I think everybody standing here can say that we have way, way, way too many laws. Most of the laws aren't even passed by through the democratic process. The vast majority of regulations we live under are passed by unelected bureaucrats who have been granted legislative power by delegation from our representatives. This creates so many problematic incentives. It creates a bureaucracy that is ever expanding, and it creates representatives and senators and presidents who are totally unaccountable for anything. If you think about the mutability of laws, I think it's gotten worse and worse and worse. Executive agencies can change and promulgate new regulations that creates compliance costs. That makes it incredibly hard to open a business or to start a business and not run afoul of the law. It means that I think it was Reason Magazine's did a study and suggested that a person probably on average commits 2 felonies a day. You know, it's totally ridiculous. At the federal level, we have way too many criminal laws. You know, the criminal laws at the federal level is just, the federal government shouldn't be in the business of the vast majority of crimes that we have. But but we're talking about the mutability, and if you think about how bad it's gotten with Obamacare, where the president can, you know, basically say, okay, well, the deadline that's in the legislation is going to be changed, unilateral executive decision. But then also at the same time, he turns around and says that the categorization of marijuana as a Class 1 controlled substance, which is an administrative decision, that he can't change it and that has to go through Congress. Well, that's wrong. So, you know, so that kind of gets me to the want of wisdom. So the multiplicity and mutability of laws is a huge problem that is itself a want of wisdom, but there's also a want of wisdom among our politicians. And I think that it is the two-party system that allows politicians to talk in platitudes with no one challenging them. And so that's why it was so important that we tried to make that 10% last year. That's why we ran with you know, really trying to make sure that even if no one thought that we could win, that they still found value in voting for the Libertarian Party. And then Madison goes on to say that their injustice betrays a defect still more alarming, and that it's the great evil in itself is basically, it calls into question self-government. And you know, we're getting to a point, there's a legitimate argument going on in America over what the role of government is. And it's a legitimate argument in the sense that it is a real divide between people who think that the government is something that we control in order to do what the will of the people is, and that, you know, the individual is basically subservient to the collective will. And then there are others who think that the individual is the thing, you know, is that you know, the government serves us to protect our rights, and that serious divide is the reason that we're having such wild swings between the two parties. But you can't map those two positions onto the two parties because they both stand for more government, bigger government, less individual rights, less freedom. And so that's why I think the Libertarian Party is the only party that you can really trust and vote for. And so that's why I wanted to kind of talk about the things we do well and the things that we can improve upon. I really think that maintaining our principles and speaking up when we see injustice, allying with Democrats on some issues, Republicans on other issues to get stuff done, showing our support when politicians we otherwise don't agree with are doing something right, criticizing when they're doing something wrong. Those are all great. Pushing forward on issues that are not popular. You know, the Libertarian Party has been talking about drug war and treating gays equally with respect to marriage for a long time before they were popular. And I think it's a testimony to the Libertarian Party that popular opinion has caught up. And I really hope that the Libertarian Party proves that it is on the leading edge of policy reform on so many other issues, from healthcare to taxes and spending to constitutional rights and surveillance state, and especially interventionist foreign policy. So I think that policy-wise, we're very strong and principled. And I think that's our greatest value. and as I mentioned previously, the fact that we are so willing to invest our time and money is another thing. The areas where we can really improve upon are our organization. I understand that we're all volunteers essentially, but it is something that we need to improve upon. And I think one of the things that we can improve upon is the existence of affiliates. If you are in a county without an affiliate, I strongly urge you to be willing to start one. This is very important for continuity and candidate recruitment and candidate support. In the places that I went to where there were active affiliates, it relieved the burden of event planning and getting the word out and all these things. It was just huge, huge help. And it's the only way I think that we're going to be able to get in 2015 a huge slate of candidates for state Senate, House of Delegates, and local jurisdictions. And I really think that this year we can use my campaign and the congressional campaigns as an opportunity to build the affiliates, get more people to get involved in the affiliates, and use that as a network of volunteers and field opportunities in the future. So I do want to say, like, if today, if you haven't already met the people who come from an area near you, please try and make sure you make contacts with them. If you are in a county or city that doesn't have an affiliate, I strongly urge you to come talk to any of the officers about starting one. And certainly, if you are in a area that has a regional affiliate, please also consider starting a jurisdictional affiliate, a local affiliate. It doesn't have to be exclusive, and you can have both. There can be overlap, but I think it's really important to have those specific jurisdiction or collective jurisdiction where it's explicit in the name of the affiliate what counties are involved and what cities are involved. I think Mark Montoni had written a blog post about the importance of local affiliates as opposed to regional affiliates, and I agree with a lot of that. But I think it's going to be really important this year and next year, and so I'd really like to work with you all to build more affiliates. Another thing that we can improve upon is, I guess one thing that's on my mind would be the ballot petitioning. It's very hard to get on the ballot, as you all know, and it takes a lot of money if we don't have the volunteer support to get out there and get petition signatures. I think there's something like 700 members of the party statewide, and if each person just got 10 signatures, that would get us substantially to 10,000. And especially with the people like John Buckley and Bill Redpath and Matt Chalko, who just go out there and get hundreds and even thousands of signatures, that can get us to 10,000. And so it's always difficult to ask people who have really busy lives to go out and get signatures, but 10 signatures is, friends and family who are willing to, that's not that hard. And so I would at least ask you to consider starting there. Hopefully we'll have candidates, congressional candidates in all of the districts, but certainly the ones that you've heard about here, there are people who can use that help as well. So please help with that. Other things are, and this is kind of something I want to talk about later with each affiliate, but I just want to touch upon the kinds of things that, even if you're not an organizer or an affiliate, you can help accomplish, and that's having a catalog of all the media in your area. Newspapers, weeklies, online magazines, radio shows, TV shows, etc., where when you're a candidate and you have to build that yourself, it takes a lot of work, and we want that institutional memory. Institutional memory is so important. Anyone who's ever been a part of a business or actually the best way to put it to illustrate is if you're in a college, if you've ever been in a college or law school or business school student group, the turnover makes it so hard to maintain continuity. But if you have some databases or spreadsheets with a lot of the information you need, it just makes a huge difference. And that's one of the things I want to help build. So if you can help cataloging all the media in in your local area, all the festivals, farmers markets, back to school nights. We were kind of flying blind when it came. We kind of basically missed back to school nights in most of the state. We hit a few up in Northern Virginia and where we had specific knowledge about them, but you know, every time we run candidates, we want to be able to know, local, state, or federal, we want to be able to know where it's best to meet voters. And farmers markets are great. Back to school nights are great, and those you know, back to school nights are people who really care and are engaged with what's going on in their community and in at least school board level and things like that. So it's a really great opportunity to meet people. Catalogs of what else? Well, so I mean that's but I'm going to kind of like talk to each affiliate about these things and kind of come up with a document that I can give to them about the things that we need. But those kind of give you a flavor of what I'm talking about. And you know, if you've ever run, you know how difficult it is to reach people, and you know how difficult it is just to find out, you know, where's a good place to hold an event. You know, where's a good place to host a meet and greet. Now we know that, you know, Cary Street Cafe is a great place. We had a great meet and greet there. We have a few places in the Norfolk area, but you know, if we want to go to Winchester, we don't have a place. If we want to go to Abingdon again, I'm not sure that we would know where to go. So those are the kinds of things that I'm talking about. It just helps us, and when you make it easier to run, you can recruit more candidates. So those are some of the things that I really wanted to touch upon. And then there's also, you know, in terms of letters to the editor, calling into radio shows, those are all things that people can do organically without any sort of direction from a campaign or from the party. And those are things that people should always be looking for opportunities to do. It takes very little effort to call into a radio show, and it can be as simple as asking a question where, you know, and asking it in such a way that somebody can't help but admit a libertarian principle in answering your question, or at least give credence to the libertarian position. And if you mention the Libertarian Party, or if you mention a candidate, that puts it in the mind of the people who are listening or reading. And so, you know, letters to the editor and radio shows are great, and there are other avenues as well. Obviously, you know, people on Facebook and Twitter are very, very active, but you know, we could do a better job of building out our online presence as a party, and also making sure that we have young people who are the ones who are early adopters of new technologies, new social media, helping out both the, you know, basically helping out candidates and the party on there by making sure that there is mind share among the people who use those social media. So that's basically a lot of the stuff that I want to talk about, just in terms of kind of suggestions for moving forward and how you can help either creating an affiliate or being a part of one, or if you're not in an area with an affiliate or you're not an organizer, you can still do a lot to help candidates out a lot. I did want to also talk about how you know, last year I got 15% of the 18 to 29-year-old vote, and that was a huge that's a huge opportunity for us. I don't think by any means that you know, other age groups should not be sought after, but this is an opportunity. I've been going to, even after the election, I've been going to high schools that have invited me to talk, and you know, a lot of those students can't vote yet, but they will be voting in the future, and they'll be voting for the next 60 years, and they have the most reason to be suspicious of anybody who claims that the government is acting in their interest. So, you know, I continue to do that, and we're going to make a much greater push this time on college campuses. Last year, because we weren't on the ballot until after the school year ended, we kind of had to wait until September to kind of really push on the campuses, and that kind of created some problems. But this year, if we can identify people at every single campus
And if you are a student or you know a student, get us in touch with students on campus so that we can, plant the seed early, get people registered to vote. One of the reasons I read Harvard Magazine had a blurb about why it is that seniors are much more likely to vote than students or young people. And what they found was that it's not because they have more time or that it's more convenient or anything like that. It's because they don't move as much. And so there's not a problem with re-registering. They're on the voter rolls, they know where they're supposed to vote, they've done it many times before, it's become a habit, and so they do it. So, but students who move around a lot, they're not on the voter rolls, they might not know how or where to vote, to register. And so just getting them registered, letting them know where to vote on voting day can make a huge difference. So that's something that we definitely want to do this year. I also wanted to, oh, I forgot to say, my first thing I meant to say is my first thing, thank you so much for everybody who helped on my campaign. I'm going to need your help again. So I do have petitioning forms on the table up there. And so not only sign one, but I would like you to take one. I'll make them available on the website soon once we have a website ready to go. So that's mainly the kind of nuts and bolts kind of stuff that I want to talk about. Last year's campaign really, it was a real growth opportunity for me. And my 2011 campaign, when I ran for state senate as a Republican, I couldn't have run last year if I hadn't run that race. And that race was, toiling in obscurity up through election day, because I was running against the Senate Majority Leader who had $1 million. But it was absolutely necessary to become a better candidate last year. And last year's race will make me a better candidate this year. And I say that because to say thank you for supporting me and allowing me, for selfish reasons to have that, to run a campaign for personal growth. That kind of, I got something out of it, so I thank you for that. And it's also to say that if you've ever thought about running, now is the time. I think that we are going to have a better opportunity to get all of our House candidates in front of the media, because we're starting with a little bit more name recognition, a little more mind share. I think it's a real opportunity to get a little bit more public attention for our candidates, not just this year, but also in 2015. So I think that this campaign has to be about the other candidates this year and about all the candidates that we can have next year. And I know there's one person who mentioned that they would like to run next year in 2015. I've had some other people indicate interest by email and on Facebook that they're interested in running for state and local races next year. I just really would like to emphasize that if you've ever thought about running, now is the time to do it, because if we don't push now, when is it ever going to happen? I really think that in Virginia, with the momentum we got from last year, we have to have candidates in as many jurisdictions as possible, quality candidates in as many jurisdictions as possible, to maintain the momentum and to build on it, and to keep the politicians feet in the fire who are from the other campaigns, from the other parties, and to make sure that if the Libertarian Party is ever going to make its move and break through in Virginia, it has to be done now. There's no reason to wait. We're in such a good position, but it's going to take a lot of hard work. And it's going to take a lot of sacrifices by people who are willing to run for office. So I really hope that many of you are willing to run. If you are, there are a lot of people here you can talk to. Get involved with an affiliate. Get involved with a campaign. The best way to learn how to run a campaign is to be a part of one. You'll see all the mistakes that we make. You'll see all the things that work. And you'll see, and you will be able to see the things that you like to do, and the kinds of things, the issues that motivate you, and having to talk and defend a candidate that you care about. You'll learn what your strengths and weaknesses are, in public speaking, or in argumentation, or in presentation, or any manner of things like that. And you'll see what goes into it money-wise. You'll see what goes into it, how difficult it is to fundraise, how difficult it is to get the attention of the media, and things like that. And hopefully when you work for a campaign like that, you see how hard it is, and that just convinces you that you have to work hard, but you also have to work really smart. So that's my big pitch to you. And I don't want to belabor the point, but I have to say, please run. Part of the reason I'm running this time is because I think that there are people out there who have thought about it, but they think, well, can little old me make a difference? But I know that if I'm running for Senate and there are 10 other people running for the House, finding that 11th person in the district that we don't have a candidate in is going to be easier. Finding someone to run for mayor or school board is going to be easier. They say, look at all those candidates, those quality candidates. Some of them who did really well. Laura, where's Laura? Didn't you get, what percent did you get? 23. 23%? And 2 years, in 2011, a Libertarian candidate got 31% in Springfield. But we lose the momentum if we don't run candidates, if we don't continually run candidates. And that's one thing, the reasons why I feel not obligated, but that it made a lot of sense to run again this year. And I know that a lot of you agree with that, and that there's a real opportunity here. This race is going to be very different, the dynamics of this race, because we don't have two people who have such high negatives. In some sense, quite the opposite. But there are opportunities in this race that weren't there in the last race. And so I think that we have to make the most of it, and we have to be really smart and work hard again. So that's why I'm committed to doing, and I hope you are as well. If you would like to be on my campaign team, I could use all the help I can get. And if you'd like to be a regional or local coordinator, it can be as difficult or as easy as you want it to be, or I shouldn't say difficult, but as much or as little work as you want it to be. If all you can do is an hour a week, I'll take it. But that's and also I should say donations. I like many libertarians, I'm not good at asking for donations, but that is something that every candidate needs, and so I will also ask you, please, if you are willing and able to make a donation, please do so after the speech. But I want to open it up to questions, because I think that was